Imagine walking through a lush, vibrant garden where every step feels like a journey through nature's most magnificent artwork, a place where colors collide in perfect harmony, textures playfully intermingle, and every plant stands as both an individual beauty and a vital part of a breathtaking whole. What if you could create this masterpiece right in your own backyard, with plants that return year after year, stronger and more vibrant? Welcome to the world of perennial borders, a celebration of creativity, a tribute to nature, and an oasis of endless beauty. Creating a truly outstanding perennial border is more than just planting flowers and hoping for the best. It's an art form, a delicate dance between color, texture, form, and seasonal changes. It's about selecting plants that not only look spectacular on their own, but also complement and enhance their neighbors. It's about creating a border that changes with the seasons yet always looks full and lush. This journey into the realm of perennial borders will guide you on how to select, combine, and care for plants to achieve a garden that is both visually stunning and ecologically friendly. Let's start with a visit to the No Name Nursery, an innovative and inspiring garden venture created by Steve Edney and his partner, Louise Dowell. Their nursery is not just a place to buy plants, it's a living laboratory where plants are grown, assessed, and displayed in the context of real garden borders. Steve, a passionate gardener and plant trialist, shares his philosophy: you should know what you grow. This philosophy drives the couple's approach to creating one of the longest perennial borders in the UK, 100 meters of vibrant, mixed planting that captures the imagination and provides year-round interest. When designing a perennial border, one of the first considerations is the proportion. Think of your garden as a canvas and your perennial border as the masterpiece. The size and shape of the border will significantly impact how it feels in relation to the rest of your garden. Steve advises against borders that are too narrow or shallow, as they tend to look insignificant and out of balance with larger garden elements. The goal is to create a border that feels expansive and rich, not cramped and sparse. The border at the No Name Nursery is an impressive 6 meters deep, allowing for nearly 500 different perennial plants to be grown and combined in various ways. This depth offers the opportunity to experiment with large, bold groups of plants, creating striking visual effects that are more difficult to achieve in narrower spaces. They modeled their border after the proportions of the renowned Wisley Long border at the IHS Wisley Gardens, ensuring that it has the impact and scale to serve as a stunning centerpiece in their wild and ecologically minded garden. When planning your own border, think not only about size but also about the environmental impact. A well-designed border doesn't just look beautiful, it also supports wildlife. At the No Name Nursery, Steve and Louise have created a space that provides habitats for a wide range of creatures. Their garden includes water features, plants that provide nectar for bees, and plenty of sheltered spots for invertebrates and small mammals to overwinter. The goal is to share their piece of land with local wildlife, ensuring that the garden is both sustainable and thriving. Understanding your site and soil, the foundation of success. Before you even think about which plants to buy, you need to understand your garden's specific conditions. The type of soil, the amount of sunlight, and the local climate all play crucial roles in determining which plants will thrive in your border. Steve emphasizes the importance of working from the soil upwards. This means knowing whether your soil is sandy, silty, or clay-heavy and understanding how it behaves throughout the year. Does it hold water in the winter or dry out quickly in the summer? For instance, the No Name Nursery is located in East Kent, one of the sunniest and driest areas in the UK. This climate dictates much of their plant selection, favoring species like Eryngium yuccifolium, which are drought-tolerant and architectural, offering visual interest throughout the seasons with its unique seed heads and yucca-like foliage. By choosing plants suited to their specific soil and climate, Steve and Louise create a resilient border that looks stunning all year round. Choosing plants, a symphony of color, texture, and form. Once you have a good grasp of your site conditions, it's time to select your plants. But how do you choose the right plants for your perennial border? Start by thinking about the role each plant will play in the overall composition. Consider factors like height, texture, color, and flowering time. Aim for a mix of plants that will provide interest throughout the year, not just during the peak growing season. One strategy is to think of your border as a series of layers. At the No Name Nursery, the team uses tall, architectural plants like Stipa gigantea as a backdrop, creating a dynamic sense of depth and movement. In front of these, they plant mid-height perennials with contrasting shapes and textures, such as Hylotelephium matrona, a sedum known for its rich purple foliage and bee-friendly flowers. Finally, lower-growing plants like Potentilla, Miss Wilmot, are used along the edges to soften the border and provide long-lasting color. Contrast is key to creating a visually engaging border. For example, pairing the delicate, airy flowers of Verbena bonariensis with the bold, sturdy leaves of Geranium dillis creates a dynamic interplay of form and texture. Likewise, combining plants with different leaf shapes, like the fine, feathery foliage of Achillea with the broad, fleshy leaves of Hosta, adds depth and complexity to the planting scheme. Creating combinations. The magic of plant pairings. The magic of a perennial border lies in the way plants are combined to create harmonious and visually pleasing groupings. At the No Name Nursery, Steve and Louise are always experimenting with new plant combinations to see what works best. They emphasize the importance of understanding the growth habits and needs of each plant to ensure that they complement rather than compete with one another. One successful combination they've created features Eryngium yuccifolium alongside Potentilla, Miss Wilmot. The creamy white flowers of the Eryngium contrast beautifully with the bright pink blooms of the Potentilla, creating a striking visual effect. Additionally, the differing leaf shapes add another layer of interest, ensuring that the border remains visually appealing even when not in full bloom. Another important consideration is the flowering period of each plant. By choosing a mix of early, mid, and late season bloomers, you can create a border that provides color and interest from spring to autumn. At the No Name Nursery, they have planted Verbena Bampton, a long-flowering variety with purple foliage and delicate flowers that adds color to the border well into the fall. This ensures that there is always something in bloom, providing continuous interest and supporting local wildlife. Design principles: balancing form, function, and foliage. Designing a perennial border is much like composing a piece of music. It requires a careful balance of different elements to create harmony and interest. Think of your plants as the different instruments in an orchestra, each playing a unique role in the overall composition. Some plants, like tall grasses or flowering spires, provide a vertical melody, while others, like ground covers and low perennials, create the rhythm and bass that anchor the composition. Steve describes their approach as creating a slow-motion fireworks display. This means having plants that punch up through the border at different heights and bloom at different times, ensuring a continuous display of color and movement. For instance, planting upright species like Veronicastrum roseum among lower-growing ground covers creates vertical accents that draw the eye upward and add dynamism to the border. When designing your own border, aim for a mix of plant forms, including vertical spires, mounding perennials, and spreading ground covers. This variety will create a more interesting and dynamic border that captures the eye and holds the viewer's attention. Maintaining your perennial border. Nurturing a living masterpiece. Once your border is planted, maintenance becomes the key to its long-term success. Regularly check for plants that are becoming too dominant or crowding out their neighbors, and be prepared to prune, divide, or remove them as needed. This process, often referred to as editing, helps maintain a balanced and harmonious planting scheme. At the No Name Nursery, Steve and Louise are constantly observing their plants, making adjustments, and experimenting with new combinations. They believe that a successful border is always evolving, and they encourage gardeners to be bold and creative in their approach. Don't be afraid to try new plant combinations. move things around, and learn from your mistakes. Conclusion: your perennial border awaits. Creating an outstanding perennial border is both a science and an art. It requires an understanding of your site conditions, thoughtful plant selection, and a willingness to experiment and take risks. But the rewards are immense. A garden that is not only beautiful but also dynamic, sustainable, and full of life. So, whether you have a small urban garden or a sprawling country estate, don't be afraid to dream big. With the right plants, the right design, and a little bit of creativity, you can create a perennial border that will captivate and inspire for years to come. Embrace the challenge, unleash your inner artist, and let your garden become a living masterpiece.